This story took place about 5 years ago when I was 13 years old. Like any typical middle schooler, I had a group of friends who I would regularly hang out with. It was the 4th of July, and I decided to have my 6 friends over. We watched a movie, jumped on the trampoline, ate food, and did fireworks. I live in a safe neighborhood located in a nice suburb. It was around 9:30 p.m. when we decided to ride bikes and skateboards over to the elementary school in the neighborhood, half a mile down the road. We got there. I messed around for a while, and at about 10:15, started to head home. Half of my friends had already left the school parking lot, and the other two and I started to follow. For reference, the exit of the lot has a stop sign, and you can either turn left, right, or go straight. If you go straight, it leads directly to a road with houses. The friends who left the lot before us went straight. As we began to ride away, an older beat-up tan car turned into the school lot. One friend and I noticed this and stopped dead in our tracks. We knew something was wrong as the passenger side window rolled down, and the car slowed down as it approached us. The three of us were on skateboards, and picked them up and started to run towards our friends. One of the girls who was with us was laughing hysterically because she hadn't noticed the car and thought we were trying to race her. After the other girl noticed the severity of the situation, she began yelling at the girls who were right down the street that there was a car following us. Here's the part where you guys may get mad, because every horror movie has taught us not to do this. We reached the point where our other friends were, and there was a car driving by. We started banging on their windows, screaming and begging for help. 2 female teenagers rolled down their windows, confused, and we just pointed at the car that was leaving the school lot, headed directly towards us. All 6 of us left our bikes and skateboards in the middle of the road, as the 2 girls told us to get in the car. It was a sedan, meaning 6 of us were crammed in the back. They drove through the neighborhood slowly at first, because they were trying to understand why there was a group of 6 hysterical girls in their car. We started screaming, "He's following us!" The girl driving hit the gas because she finally understood why we were all upset. She lost the car and told me to call my parents. They asked me to hand the phone to the girl who was driving and told her to get back to the place where she had picked us up, turning the car and headlights off, and he would meet us there. I had a Life 360 group with my parents so they could easily get to us without needing directions. When we arrived at the spot, the female got on the phone with some of her friends. Luckily, she lived a few houses down from where we were, and her brother had friends over. They were massive buff football players at a local high school, and they came out of the house. The boys asked us to describe the man, and we told them what we had saw. My dad arrived, and we had all started running over to him, but the boys started to press him because we started screaming, "That's him! That's him!" We weren't pointing at my dad. We were pointing at the car with the same man in it who had been hiding from. My dad had his hands up in the air, telling the boys that he was the parent, and that's when they caught on to the fact we were pointing at the car. The man still had his windows rolled down and looked at us with a grin I will never forget. The boys ran after the car as it passed us. One had no shoes on and ran through rocks just trying to get a picture of this guy's plate. The man knew he was being followed and sped off before a picture could be taken. We loaded the bikes and skateboards in the trunk, and my dad took us home. We called the police. They questioned us, but we never heard anything about it again. To this day, I wonder if his was just a creep, or if he had any worse intentions. I still think of those girls too, and what would have happened if they weren't driving by in that exact moment. If anyone has any ideas of what happened that night, or even similar experiences, please let me know. In 2012, I was invited to go with my 2 friends, who were sisters, to their family 4th of July party. It was a lot of fun. There was eating, swimming, playing, and then fireworks. So the next year, which is when this took place, I went with them again. For some quick background on the creeper, he's 3 years older than me and has been arrested for sexual assault on a minor before I met him, and he was still under house arrest. It started when I was sitting in the kitchen alone. I was sitting by the snacks, a place where they had 5 chairs. I had my legs stretched out, covering 3 of them, when he came over. We made eye contact, so I said hi, and he said hi back. He touched my legs, like a pat, and I thought he meant for me to move my legs so he could sit. At that time, my gut was telling me to get off my lazy butt and go back outside, because there were people there. I was too lazy though and didn't move. I was on my iPod, just looking through Tumblr when I heard him say something. The only word that I caught from the whole thing was cute. I had to ask him 3 more times to hear it fully, which turned out to be him saying I was cute. I didn't know what to do, so I smiled and said thank you. He knew I was 16 because he had asked earlier, and I gave no thought to it. He asked if I had a boyfriend, and I didn't think and said no. He kept saying how cute and good looking I was. I kept saying thanks. Finally, he got up and left. What I should have done was get up and go outside to where there were people. I was just too lazy to get up and move. I also thought that was the end of it. Nope. He came back in a few minutes later, asking for my phone number. I got scared because he had his phone out, and I thought he was going to text or call once I gave him my number. I also thought if I said no, he would get me in trouble, so I gave it to him. The first text was at 8:09, saying, "Hey there, beautiful." I answered because, again, I thought I would get in trouble if someone found out what was going on. After a few more texts like that, he sent, "You want to go somewhere?" This is when I really freaked out and told one of my sisters what was going on. She freaked out too, and told me to stay with her. I did, but that didn't help. He wouldn't take my no, so I had to come up with excuses. He said for me to ditch hanging out with her. What got worse was whenever we were inside, he would rub up against me, motion for me to follow, and make kissy lips at me. In a crowded room, no one saw any of this. He even waited by the bathroom line because he saw me in it, so when I was going out I ran. By the time the fireworks were happening, he caught me alone in a room and forcefully kissed me, as well as touched my butt and boob. I kept saying I had to go, and when I tried to leave the room, the door wouldn't open. When it was finally open, he started to kiss me again. The only thing that saved me was my friend calling my name, to which I was able to yell to her. After that, he kept trying to get me to go with him. Anytime he got a chance to get close to me, he would say something. He even followed me to the car when I was leaving, which my friend almost started to yell at him. He continued to text me, saying how at the party, 3 days after that, stuff was going to happen. The next day he even called me 3 times. Lucky for me, at the next party, people found out, so I wasn't allowed to go. I haven't heard from him since, most likely because the family made sure my number was out of his phone, to which I am forever grateful. For some brief background, I'm an 18-year-old male, and this encounter occurred when I was around 13. Every year when the 4th of July rolls around, me and my family would go to my friend's house to celebrate. The friend and his family are quite wealthy, and they live in a large house about a mile into the woods. The 4th of July parties at their house were always huge events, with around 15 to 20 families attending. The younger people at the parties were either around my age or high school age. I typically hung out with my friend Gavin and his sister Trina, who I had a huge crush on at the time, who were the kids of the family friend that owned the house. On this particular 4th of July, The older kids decided they wanted to go into the woods, and of course all of the younger kids wanted to go too, me included. Keith, one of the older kids, agreed to us tagging along under the condition that we wouldn't chicken out and run away. All of the younger kids agreed, and the whole group journeyed into the woods. Keith was leading us down a trail to a nearby pond when Trina grabbed my hand. 13-year-old me turned beet red in the darkness, but I could also tell something was wrong. "There's someone in the woods. I just saw him. He's a big man." She pointed out into the trees, but I didn't see anything. I squeezed her hand tightly and told her that she was just seeing things. Trina had always been the sort to scare easy, and I thought nothing of it. The group finally made it to the pond. We only had one flashlight with us, but by this time everyone's eyes adjusted to the darkness of the woods. We all sat around talking and goofing off. We occasionally heard sounds out in the woods, but we just figured it was the local deer population. Most of us are children of deer hunters, and the area was near our dad's hunting land. Eventually everyone settled down, and Keith started telling us a scary story. It was something about kids being lost in the woods. Nice one, Keith. As the story continued, Trina's grip on my hand got tighter and tighter. She was practically shaking when one of Keith's friends tossed a log into the pond right at the story's climax. Everyone jumped and screamed, and eventually we all started laughing at how scared we got. Suddenly, another distinct laugh joined ours. It was a deep, throaty chuckle that echoed off the empty space around the pond. We all stopped laughing and sat in silence. I looked around and my eyes locked onto a large black mass that could only be human standing at the edge of the woods around the pond. "That was a good one. You even startled me," said the mass. The voice sounded similar to the chuckle from before. The air seemed to freeze, and for what seemed like eternity, no one moved. It felt like Trina was trying to shatter the bones in my hand. Suddenly, as if time had started again, we all scrambled up and ran. We ran as fast and hard as we could, but it didn't seem fast enough. I could hear the heavy footsteps behind our group, heavier than any of us could produce. The man was following us. After what seemed like hours, we all exited the woods and ran into the brightly lit driveway. We watched the edge of the woods while Keith did a head count. Trina swears to this day that she saw the man standing at the edge of the woods, watching us, before turning back and walking away. This remains one of the scariest experiences in my life. I like to tell myself that the man was just passing by and had no ill intentions. But why did he choose to chase after us? If he was the one who Trina saw on the way to the pond, why did he follow us there? I'll never know his intentions or why he was there.